Okay. Good afternoon. Once again, we are going to continue with our lessons. We have talked about the forms of business organizations or the business units. Whilst we were discussing that topic, one of the business organizations that we learned was companies. We talked about three main types of companies. Those that are limited by shares, those that are limited by guarantee, and then we also talked about unlimited liability companies. One thing we learned was that the companies that are limited by shares, we have two forms. Either you are a private limited liability company or a public limited liability company. When we came to the public limited liability companies, we learned that they float shares. And we said it is different from just issuing shares. The private ones, we also learned they issue shares. But when you use the term float, it is exclusive to the public limited liability companies. In other words, so when we were even talking about the difference between the private and the public one of the differences was that the private companies are not allowed to advertise their shares in the stock market, but the public ones do advertise their shares in the stock exchange. So today we are going to learn about that stock exchange. Stock exchange is actually an aspect of financial management. Financial management is supposed to be learned in year 3. Stock exchange and other functional areas like human resource management, marketing management, production management, and financial management. In management, we call those areas functional areas. But logically, if you have learned that the public companies buy shares at the stock market, it will be better for us to know the stock market and then what goes on there, so that you have broader view or broader perspective about what the stock exchange is all about. So today we are going to talk about stock exchange, and as usual, these are the areas we are going to cover. So I said learning objectives. So by the time we finish with stock exchange, you should be able to define what stock exchange is. What is stock exchange? So the meaning of stock exchange. Then the classification of stock, the stock exchange or the stock market. We will look at money market, then we look at capital market. So we are going to look at security. When it comes to stock exchange, it deals with securities. And securities, we'll be looking at the meaning of securities. Then we look at the classifications. Under the classification of securities, we'll be looking at the money market and the capital market. Then it is there that you learn that the capital market is just an example of the stock exchange. Then we also come to types of capital market, where we talk about primary market and then the secondary market. You know what they are. Then we look at the benefits of buying shares. When you buy shares, what are the benefits? We look at two main benefits of buying shares. Then you should be able to talk about some types of securities, and you should be able to describe them. So you look at shares, which we have already done when we are talking about companies. Debentures, which we have also done when we are talking about companies. So what we will be concentrating on in respect of this particular topic is bonds. And once you understand debentures, bonds will also become very simple for you. Then when you go to the stock market or in stock exchange, Who are those there? The members. So we'll be looking at the members or the members or the dealers in the stock market. Then we will look at the concept of speculation. Apart from the main members in the stock market, we also have those we call the speculators. We will look at them. Others call them stock exchange animals because they bear the names of animals. We will look at them. There are three. We look at them. So under speculators, we are going to look at the meaning of speculation. When you say speculation, what does that mean? Then we look at the three main speculators. Then we look at the procedure involved in buying or selling shares at the stock market. And then finally, we look at the functions of the stock market. So that is our focus. So now let's start. What is stock exchange? Or what is stock market? Now, if you were sick and you decided to go you decided to buy medicine, where will you go to buy medicine? Will you go to just any place, any market to buy medicine? No, there is a place where you can buy medicine, and I'm not here to tell you where you can buy medicine. If you wanted to buy tomatoes, would you go to the place where you went to buy medicine? No, there is a place to go to buy tomatoes. So you see, there are markets that have been established for specific purposes. So when you talk about stock exchange, that is also is a market. And this market is well organized. So we say it is an organized market. Where do we sell tomatoes? No. Do we sell medicine? No. But what is sold there? So where securities are sold or where securities are bought. So if you want to buy securities, if you want to sell securities, you go to stock exchange. And that is where that transaction can be done. And I say securities. So what are securities? I'll give you example of those securities. And then as you move forward, you know in what the definition of securities. Now, when we were talking about companies, we learned about shares. That is an example of securities we are talking about. You also learned about debentures. That is also an example. Then there is one that we have not talked about, which that's what the one we learned here. Bonds. And probably you might have learned about that one because quite recently there was issues with people who have bought bonds from the government. So you might have heard of bonds. So these are examples of securities. So when you say stock market, we are looking at an organized market. Why are we saying it is organized? Things are not done there haphazardly. There is a way, there is a systematic way things are done. You cannot just go there and do things the way you want to do it. There are rules that have been established, and you do or you transact business there, you buy shares there, you sell shares there according to the rules. So it is a market that is well organized, and in that market, securities, for example, shares, debentures, bonds are sold there. So that is that. In Ghana, ours is called the Ghana Stock Exchange. The Ghana Stock Exchange. In short, they say JSE, Ghana Stock Exchange. And those of you who are in Accra, you know the City House. That is where the Ghana Stock Exchange is. So that is what you should know about the meaning of security market. But note this, the security market is a secondary market. I'm repeating. Now note that, as I told you, stock exchange is in your book 3. It's a year 3 book, and you have your book 1. So you don't have the book 3. So as I'm teaching, you should try as much as possible to note certain things down. So you have to study before you come to school. So note certain things down. When you come to school, you get your book 3. So note certain things down. Study. You know, this is video. You can pause, write something. If I get time, I will also scan the note and then put on the WhatsApp for you, the WhatsApp platform. So, but you can take your own notes whilst I'm teaching. I was telling you that the stock market or stock exchange is a secondary market. If it is a secondary market, it means we have primary market. So why are you saying it's a secondary market? Very simple. You see, when we were learning about companies, the public companies, we said they issue shares and then people will go and buy. Now when you establish company for the first time, what their main source of finance is sales of shares. So they float shares. Then the public buys the shares, and then whoever will buy the share will become a shareholder, and that means you have become part owner of the company. That is who a shareholder is. So when you say it is a secondary market, when the companies come for the first time and they are selling their shares to the public, new shares are being sold to the public. That one is called primary market, and they call it IPO, which means initial public offer. So if you look at it, in IPO, I said which is equal to initial public offer. Let's look at it. This is the definition I was talking about. I said it's an organized market where securities, and examples of securities, we are looking at shares or stock. Shares and stock, they are almost the same. Bonds and then debentures are sold or bought. Then I said the stock market is a secondary market. And I'm saying, why are we saying it is a secondary market? It's a secondary market because when companies are selling their shares for the first time, that's what we call the initial public offer. Then that is a primary market. The IPO is a primary market. You see, when I say primary market, when I say secondary market, it doesn't mean that there is a building there, and then that building, this building is called primary market, and then this building is also called secondary market. No, that is not the meaning. It is the transaction we are referring to as either primary market or secondary market. So you can be at the same, like this classroom that I am in right now teaching. If it were to be a stock market, a company comes, the first time the company, they are selling shares, then they say that is their initial public offer. Nobody has ever bought that share before. So when they start, you go and buy 100 shares. That one is a primary market. When the companies are selling their shares for the first time, then that particular market is called primary market. And that is their initial public offer. Then somebody will buy shares. So your father, for example, can decide to go and buy shares. I can decide to go and buy shares. So assuming a company by name ABC, company PLC. Remember, we have learned that for now the public companies, they end with PLC, they don't end with limited. They were selling shares, so I decided to go and buy 100 shares. One is 5 cedis, so I have invested 500 cedis in that company. That is their initial public offer. So that was the primary market. Now, after buying the shares, maybe 10 years time, 20 years time, 5 years time, I may not be interested in investing in the company. So I want to sell the shares that I have. That is where stock exchange comes in. That is where the stock market comes in. So I will not pick the shares and go to the company and tell them that I'm no more interested in having my shares. I want to sell my shares. No, that is not how it is done. I'll not go to the company. What I have to do is to go to the stock exchange or stock market. Then I'll go and see somebody we call a broker. Then the broker will get the shares. Then you go and search for somebody we call the jobber. Negotiate with the jobber. Then the jobber will buy my shares and I'll get my money. That is what is done. And that is why we say it is a secondary market. That is where we are looking at shares that are sold after the initial public offer. Those who purchase shares, if they are no more interested in keeping their shares, then they sell. So that is the one we call secondary market. The primary one is the initial public offer. Those who bought the shares and they were no more interested, then they will go to the secondary market to sell their shares. So that is why we are saying that I indicated it is a secondary market. And I said why? Because there is a primary market, which is the initial public offer. And I have explained here, I said under the primary market, public companies float shares. And I've explained to you what is meant by to float shares. Private companies cannot float shares. They can issue shares, they can sell shares, but they cannot float shares. So when you use the term float, it is exclusive to the public companies. So at the primary market, public companies float shares and sell them directly to the public. Then those who will buy the shares here and they are no more interested, then they also sell their shares to other people who will be interested. So look at this. What it means is that if you want to sell your shares, you are not selling the shares to the company. You are selling your shares to any member of the public who will be interested to buy your shares. So shares are not, you cannot sell your shares to the company. So take note of that one. So that is the reason of saying that it is a secondary market. It is not a primary market. Now, at the primary market, the companies will get dealers to sell their shares for them. So they will, if you see their prospectus, remember we have learned about prospectus. They will show you where you can get the shares to buy. Some banks and some brokerage firms and so on and so forth. You go there to buy. But if at the secondary market, you go to the stock exchange, which we have learned that is the city house, then you can now see a broker. You cannot go to the market and say, I'm selling shares. No, you cannot do that. That's what we say. It is an organized market. So in that market, what you do is that you go and you see a broker. You cannot directly deal with the jobber. So the broker will go and sell your shares for you, and then he will take commission. We call brokerage. We will come to that one. So that is that. Now, this stock exchange or the stock market is supervised and regulated by what we call the Securities and Exchange Commission. Others simply call it SEC. Security and Exchange Commission, SEC. That is the body that has been established to supervise and regulate stock exchange so that things are done as they are supposed to be done. You remember, I have put on your platform, the WhatsApp platform, what the Security and Exchange Commission is all about and their function. If you go to their website, that is when it was established, what they were established to do, or what it was established to do, and then their functions. I've already put that one on your platform, so I wouldn't waste time here talking about that one. If you are not my student and you are watching this video, you can just Google Security and Exchange Commission. You go to their website and you know what they are and then their functions. So that is for that one. Then securities. We are talking about securities. What are securities? So now we have learned about examples of securities. If I ask you what are securities, you should be able to tell me something, because now we have learned that shares are example of security. Debentures are example of security. And you have learned about shares and then debentures. So you should be able to tell me what securities are. Certainly we will look at two things. We said securities are financial instruments. For now, when I say instruments, you know what instruments are. We are not looking at musical instruments. We are looking at here financial instruments. And then they are also legal documents. They are backed by law, showing or signifying either ownership. So in other words, if you buy security, for example, if you buy shares in a company, then you have become part owner. So that one is to be looking at ownership position in the company. That is where you purchase shares. So we said securities are financial instruments or legal documents signifying or showing either ownership position. And it shows ownership position when you purchase, when you buy. So when you buy shares, you have become part owner of the company. So that one will show ownership position. Or creditor relationship. Remember, we learned that debenture holders are best described as creditors. They are not owners. So if you give loan to a company or to the company, then the relationship that you have is with the company is that you are a creditor. So it shows either ownership position or creditor relationship with the company or government. Why are you saying company or government? If you bought shares, companies are those who sell shares. When companies, we have already learned that when they need additional capital and they don't want to sell shares, they can invite the public to buy debentures. That means you are giving loan to them. Government too, in the same way, if government also wants loan from the public, the government issues bonds. So when the companies issue them, we call them debentures. When government issue them, we call them bonds. So, and they are both securities. So that's why we said a creditor relationship with a company or government. And that is whether you bought debentures or bonds. So that is for that one. Now let's look at the security market. So now we know what securities are. So the security market can be divided into two. We have what you call money market and we have what you call capital market. Now what is money market? Money market deals with short-term securities. So I've indicated the money market. So I've written, I said short-term securities are bought or sold. So you can go for short-term bank loan, you go for a loan and you can pay the money within 1 year or less than 1 year. Or you can go to the bank and buy treasury bills. So treasury bills, short-term bank loans, all these we are dealing with the short-term securities, and that is the money market. Then we have the capital market, which deals with long-term securities. Long-term securities. Now remember, when you buy shares, there is no way shares become permanent source of companies' capital. Why? Even if you are not interested in keeping the shares, you sell to somebody. You don't go and give to the company. So the company will continue to have the money. Then you can sell your shares to somebody. The person buys it. The person not the person also can sell and so forth. So that is long-term security. If you give loan to the company, debentures, it's also a long-term security. It will take long time before the company will give you the loan, whilst they are paying you your fixed rate of interest, which you have already learned. So that is the capital market. It deals with long-term securities. And note, the stock exchange is an example of the capital market. So the stock exchange deals with long-term security. So when you're looking at the capital market, an example of that one will be the stock exchange. So that is that. And that is where they deal with shares, bonds, and then debentures. Then when you come to the capital market, it is also divided into two. We have what we call primary market and then secondary market. So capital market is divided into two. Primary market and secondary market. If you remember, I told you the stock exchange is a secondary market. So I've explained to you the concept of primary market and secondary market. Others call this one second tier security. Second tier. T-I-E-R. So the stock market, we have what you call primary market, and you have, or the capital market. The capital market, you have what you call primary market, you have secondary market. This one deals with the IPO, the initial public offer. When a company is selling shares for the first time, that market is called primary market. Then if you buy shares and you are no more interested in keeping the shares, you want to dispose of your shares, then you'll be dealing with the secondary market. That market is called secondary market. So we have already dealt with that one. Now, what are the benefits of buying shares? We are looking at two main benefits. Number one, we have what we call dividend income, which we have already learned. So you buy shares, and at the end of the year, when profits are declared, portion of the profit that will be given to shareholders is what we call dividend. So depending on the number of shares you own, if they say that a share is, for example, 50 pesos, that year they make profit of, let's say, 1 billion, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1 billion Ghana cedis. Then they said out of the 1 billion Ghana cedis, they were going to share 400,000 Ghana cedis to the shareholders. Then the 400,000 will be the dividend. And how much are you going to get from this? Whatever you get, they will do calculation, assuming they have 40,000 shares altogether. 400,000 shares. No, 40,000 shares. Then they are going to share dividend of 400,000. So what they are going to do is to 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So in that case, what is left, it means that a share will be 40 cedis. So if I have 100 shares, then it will be divided by, it will be multiplied by 40 cedis. And 40 times 100 will be what? You know, this time this will give us 4. Then we have these 3 there. That means you are going to get this. This is just hypothetical example. In fact, it will be very difficult for you to get 40 cedis per share. You can only get 50 pesos per share. But I was just using this one to explain to you. And I use 40,000 and then because of this one. If they had 400,000, this one is 400,000. So if they had 400,000 shares, it means that a share will be 1 CD. So if you have 100 shares, you get 100 CDs. So that is for that one. So one of the benefits you have for buying shares is the dividend income. Another benefit is what you call capital gain, which you have also learned. You remember when we were talking about companies, we learned that most people buy shares not because they want dividend, but because of the capital gain. Companies start when they are at the IPO, at the initial public offer, maybe because they want more people to buy, they may be selling shares at 1 CD per share. If the company is a very good company that makes profit and people are interested in investing, your constituents will teach you what determines prices of commodities. It's the interplay of demand and supply. And I'm not your economics teacher. So in economics, you learn about demand and supply and how the two determine prices of commodities. But generally, you know that if prices of commodities are high, all things being equal, then demand, that means few people will buy the product. But if prices are low, more people will buy it, all things being equal. So that is that. So it is the interplay of demand and supply that will determine the price of shares. So as more people are buying the company share, prices will be appreciating. Prices will be moving up, up, up. So that share you bought at 1 Ghana cedi, 10 years to come, the value may be 20 Ghana cedis. So, if at that time you want to sell the shares, you are no more interested in company, and you bought, let's say at that time, when they were selling the shares, you bought 500 shares, 1 CD. So you paid 500 Ghana cedis. You paid 500 Ghana cedis. Now that it is 20 cedis, if you were to sell 500 shares, this times this is 10. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So you see, something that you bought at 500 Ghana cedis, you are now selling at 10,000 Ghana cedis. So what is the capital gain? It is the difference between how much you bought the shares and how much you sold. So this 10,000 minus 500 Ghana cedis will be left with what? 9,500 Ghana cedis. And that is the capital gain. That is the capital gain. And that is the main reason most people buy shares. If I want to buy shares, I will not buy shares because of the dividend. If you see dividends that are declared at the end of the year, they are so insignificant. You can buy shares and then at the end of the year you are giving something small. But you don't look at that one. There is what you call capital gain. And I've shown something here. I've already talked to you about the Ghana Stock Exchange. There was a video I posted in your WhatsApp group. And I said before you come to YouTube to watch me teaching, watch that video. It was a seminar that was organized by Invest in Ghana. And they invited somebody, a resource person. The name of that person is Mr. Seth Ofori. And this man is the general manager of SIC Brokerage Limited. He is the general manager of SIC Brokerage Limited. And he is a licensed dealer. So he has been given license to trade on the stock market. So he has so much experience. That's why they invited him. And he was the resource person. This is what he said. He said that at the time the stock exchange, the Ghana Stock Exchange, became operational, that means they started working in 1990. If somebody bought shares in 1990 and or the person invested 100 Ghana cedis then in 1990, as at the time he was giving lectures in 2021, and that was during the COVID lockdown period. So it was virtual. It was not, the seminar was not done physically, it was virtual. As at that time, he was giving the lectures. If you had invested 100 Ghana cedis in 1990, your investment would have grown to 23,741 Ghana cedis, 67 pesos. 1990, you invested this. By 2021, as at the time he was giving lectures, now we are in 2023. Today is 4th May 2023. He was giving the lectures in 2021. So you see, 2 years down the lane, this 23,741 has moved to from this one to about 28 to 30 then. But by 2021, it was this. And that is to explain the importance of the capital gain. So if you sold shares or if you bought shares at 100 Ghana cedis in 1990, by 2021, 23,741 cedis, 67 pesos. The difference is what you call capital gain. But you see, even though inflation might have also affected, you still we don't look at, we hold that factor constant. So we are not looking at inflation and whatever. We are just looking at the difference between this and that one, and that will be the capital gain. So that is for that one. Now for this video, we will continue another time, but for this video we want to end at types of securities for this video. Then we will continue another time. Very simple, straightforward. Types of securities we have already learned. We have shares or stock. Now, if you watch that video, Mr. said Ofori talked about the difference between the two. He said the Americans use stock and then the British use shares. At your level 2, apart from that one, when we talk about stock, when we are talking about shares that have been accumulated, then we will be looking at stock. So a company's, the total shares will be their stock. And he also said that Americans talk about stock and then the British, they talk about shares. So there is no significant difference. In other words, if we are to talk about types of shares, you say, oh, state or list 3 types of shares, and you say, no, 3 types of securities, and you say, number 1, shares, number 2, stock. The 2 will not be marked. It's only one that will be marked. So when the shares are marked, this one will not be marked. So we are looking at shares, debentures, and then bonds. Shares have already been defined when we were talking about companies. We said shares are fixed part of a company's capital that individuals or companies buy by paying various sums of money, and you become part owner of the company. We have read about that one, so we didn't waste time. Debentures, I've even told you about debentures. When companies need additional capital, they go for loan from the public. They call it debentures, and we have talked about that one too. Bonds. Now, when companies go for loans, we call them, we say debentures. When government goes for loan, then that one becomes bonds. So what are bonds? We said bonds are written documents. Now you remember debentures, we define debentures in two ways. We said number one, they are long-term loans that companies go for when they need additional capital to finance their operations and they don't want to sell shares, then they can go for debentures. Then we also said that when you buy the debentures, when you give your money to them, they give you a document to acknowledge that you have given them a loan. So that document, that written document that acknowledges receipt of loan, that the company has received loan from you, is also called debenture. In that regard, we can define bond as written document issued by the government. So here it is not company for going for loans from the public. And the holder of the bond will be paid fixed rate of interest. Fixed rate of interest. Remember, shareholders, when we were talking about types of shareholders, we talked about preference shareholders, ordinary shareholders. We said the preference shareholders receive fixed rate of dividend. Then when you came to debentures, we said debenture holders receive fixed rate of interest. In bonds to bondholders will receive fixed rate of interest, not dividend, interest. So that is for bond holding. So if you buy bonds, now you quite recently you got to know about bondholders, the one they call domestic bondholders, and the government issues. There were a lot of issues about that. So the issue of bond, you know it. You give your money to the government, you buy bonds. There are several ways you can give your money to the government. You can either decide to buy treasury bills or bonds. Bonds will take longer time before they are paid, but there are also short-term bonds. In fact, you can even get 3 months bond. But usually bonds are long-term, and so long as the government keeps your money, he gives you fixed rate of interest. So as at the time you were buying the bond, if the interest rate was, let's say, 30%, then that means if you gave and it's 30% per annum. So if you gave the government 10,000 Ghana cedis, then the government will give you 30% of the 10,000 Ghana cedis. So whatever you get will be the fixed rate. So here is 5. So 1, 2, 1, 2. It's left with 2 here. So 3 times 1 is 3. It's left with 1 here, 1, 2 here. So it means you get fixed rate of interest. 3,000 cedis every year. So if it is for 10 years, you'll be getting this. That's what they call coupon. So the coupon will be paid to you, and you'll be getting your 3,000 every year. So time elapses. So that is where we are going to end it today. We will continue another time. And if you look at our objectives, we have talked about the meaning, the securities, types of security, then the benefits of buying shares. Then we have described shares, debentures, bonds. Our next topic, we'll be looking at the dealers or the members of stock exchange, and then other things. Till we meet again, please note this. You are supposed to make comments If you want to ask any question, ask the question at the comment section. And you should make comment whether the lesson you understood it or you didn't understand. If you have any question, you ask the question. And then if you have not subscribed to it, you do that. At the appropriate time, when you come to the platform, I'll give further instruction. Till we meet again another time. Bye-bye.